Assalamu alaikum, this is Galiba Miss. Today's session is on biology and we are going to be having a look at some revision methods which you will be learning for your AS exam. The thing about bio is that everybody loves to study, but when it comes to the exam, it's a different story. So what I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be telling you some of the methods which you can use to learn vast content of knowledge. As you know, bio contains, every unit has a lot of knowledge and content with it, and then you will be thinking like, where should I start from? I know a lot of you will be asking that question even now, where should I start revising from? So today's session I am going to be telling you how you can start it. So let's have a look at it. The hardest thing about revision is getting started. So what you can do is, you cannot do active learning while lying down. So something that you have to do is keep your mind to it saying that you are going to be learning. Okay, so sit down, that's the most important thing. And not just sitting down, but having all the materials that you need. For example, you will need a notebook, you will need pen for you to be doing some note. And one very important thing for bio student is the specifications. This should be like your best friend, revision best friend, because this is the one which contains your syllabus objectives which you will be assessed on. So let's have a look at how you are going to do it. Don't leave it too late. We have the habit of keeping things too late. Right now we know that your IAL exam is on October. So we'll be thinking like, oh, we got time. Yes, we got time. But the thing about is that this time you are going to be again studying more content. Probably you will be starting with unit 4. So there will be another additional unit added onto it. So don't leave it too late. Okay? Make it into sections. Don't read too much of it. Put it into sections and start revising. For example, revise little and often. Do not spend like 2 hours studying on one content. Your maximum way of concentration is about 20 minutes. So spend about 20 minutes and don't spend too long on any one section. The best way to do that is go back and revise it often, not to study it in chunks. Now if you have any questions, you can always ask your teacher. Right now, the teachers are always available online. You have your Viber groups and other groups which you can go and talk to them. So if you have any questions related to it, you can always ask them. So these are some of the techniques that can be used for revision. So one of the main thing is summarizing your notes. I'm going to be going through each one of them in detail. This is the most effective way. Works best is active learning. Like I said, you cannot study bio by lying down on the bed. You have to be actively involved in studying it and test yourself. So we're going to be having a look at each one. For example, how are you going to summarize key points? As I've said in the beginning, bio contains a lot of content knowledge. A lot. Now you know that you have unit 1, 2, 3, and all of it is all content. So how are you going to start? Where are you going to start? So like I said, this specification will have the objectives written in it. So go to the objectives, you study from the textbook, make your own notes. That's the most important thing. So based on the objectives, make your own note. For example, for a topic there can be around 15 objectives. So cut it down to around 3 objectives per day. And each of these 3 objectives, make your own notes by reading the textbook first. Read the textbook and then make your own notes. When you are making your own notes, it will be your own. It will not be something that is done by a professional or something, an expert in that. So it will be your own way of writing it down. So you can do this by making tables and lists, flow charts to identify different ideas, especially for biological structures. Very important to draw diagrams, concept maps, mind maps. These are for like bigger topics which you can link all of these together. I'll give you an example of how you can make notes for, let's say, this huge amount of content. This is the structure of chloroplast, and as you can see, there are lots of information in here. For example, double membrane, outer membrane, intermembrane space, granum, thylakoid, stroma, matrix, so much of information is there. So by reading or by hearting it, it's not going to work. So you have to find a way how you are going to put this information into a way how you can retain it into your memory. So one way is such a thing can be done using a diagram, a simple diagram like this. So you can start with saying chloroplast has a double membrane, two membrane, easy. Then start saying that there is an outer membrane, inner membrane, outer membrane, inner membrane. In between those two is the intermembrane space. See, all the information that was done over here, just simply said it. Double membrane, an inner membrane, outer membrane, and an intermembrane space. Then you can say that there are disc-like structures present. These disc-like structures are called as thylakoid. And these disc-like structures are stacked up, and each one of these stack is called as a grana. Then these are connected by lamella. All this information into a simple diagram as such. So this will be easy to retain in your memory rather than by hearting all of this information. So that is one way how you can revise your work, large amount of work. So let's have a look at another one. How are you going to actively? One thing I always stress to my student is cannot keep it in your mind unless you are actively involved in learning. For example, explain ideas to a partner. Once you read your textbook, you make your own notes, you learn from your own notes. That's the best thing. Learn from your own notes depending on the specification, objectives. Then say that to a partner, someone, maybe a friend. It will be easy for you to know what you are going to be doing. Search the internet for animations. I think now everybody have internet, so it will be very easy for concepts, simple concepts to go and search for it through animations. YouTube is there. So whatever you want and a concept that you don't understand, visually see it. So nowadays you can do that, so it will be very easy to do it. Work in a study group, very, very important when you are revising, if you can have an effective study group. But I do not recommend for you to use a study group while the day next to an exam. In that way, self-studying is the most important thing. But for you to prepare for your revision, yes, a study group is good, but effective study group. Test yourself. This is the last one thing that you can do. Use questions from a textbook. All textbooks at the end of the topic, they will have questions. So once you have finished doing a particular topic, you can look at the textbook questions and answer. Probably the answers will be given to you, so it will be easier for you to understand them. Get someone to test you, maybe a friend. Ask them to give you some questions and you can answer them. Try some past paper questions. That will be the very best thing, because that way that you are revising. One thing I know about is that when a student is asked to do that, they first start to do question papers. That is not the way how you do it. Question papers would be the last revision technique that is used. Once you study from textbook, make your own notes, actively involved in maybe probably telling someone about it, or on your own learn about it, then the last thing that you have to do is past papers. Okay? Doing past papers first and then again going back to learning the notes is not going to be effective. So these are some of the division techniques very briefly explained in order for you to prepare for the exam. Okay. Now what I am going to be telling you is about the command words. Okay. These are words that can be used to help students understand how you are going to answer a question. If suppose a question is asking you about describe something, okay, and you talk about an explanation, you will not be getting marks on it. So we will just go through some of these very important command words that we will not be able to go through all of them, but we will have a look at some of them. For example, these command words are very direct command words. For example, give, state, name. These are just very directly, you can say name something, name an organelle, name a structure or present in it. So it's very, very direct. Add, label, determine. Normally when they give the word determine, that means they are expecting you to do a calculation. Probably they will not ask you to do a calculation, calculate something, but the question will be determine something from it. So in that case, you have to do a calculation. It has to be a quantitative, a number, okay, with working given in it. Then write. For example, if they ask you to write something, probably it will be an equation. So these are like very, very common direct command words. But there are some command words, for example, describe, specific way which you need to answer these questions. If it is a describe question, you have to give an account of something statement in response to it as given in the question. Okay? For describe question, remember you do not have to give explanation, a reason why it happened. You just simply say how, you simply say what is being present in the content. Let's have a look at some past paper questions, revise some past paper questions. This is this year January 2020 paper. Okay, so I have taken the question saying, describe the ethical issues related to genetic screening. So they want you to talk about ethical issues related to genetic screening, and this is a marking scheme that is given to you. You can try this as well. Okay? After trying it, then you can look at the marking scheme. Normally marking schemes, when you have a look at it, may not give you the exact answer that you want to know. I will tell you how you can do that as well. So these are the answers saying screening may result in an abortion. Okay? That it could be against religious beliefs, all talking about ethical issues. That's what the question says, ethical issues related to it. You don't have to give an explanation as why it may result in an abortion. So justifications are not needed. Spare embryos are destroyed, which means taking a human life. Again, no explanation. So this one, screening may produce false result. For some description questions, you have to link it to the process. For example, genetic processes such as amniocentesis. This has to be written. It has to be linked. Otherwise, you will not be getting this mark in here. Which increases risk of miscarriages and death to the fetuses. Okay, now let's have a look at another one. I'm sure you are familiar with the examiner's report. That is actually something that you have to look through it, because this gives you a more clear idea of how you are going to answer them. The marking scheme will be a bit vague for students, but the examiner's report will give you a more detailed explanation as how you're going to. So as you can see, the examiner report says that most students could identify and describe at least one ethical issues related. It's a 2-mark question. The most common error was that stating it but not linking it to the genetic screening process. So in some description questions, you also need to link it as well. Moving to the next one, explain, very, very important. Here, explain questions, there are different ways that they can ask you. Explanation questions may be worth 3 marks, 6 marks, 4 marks, or so. So in explanation questions, they normally want you to give an explanation, a reason, a justification. You describe the process and then you give a justification as to why it is happening. So for explain questions, if you just describe a process, you will not get marks. Probably 1 mark you might get, but you will not be getting full mark for the justification part. That is again where students score less mark. That's why command words are important. Let's have a look at, this is a 2-mark explanation question. Yes, explanation questions come for 2 marks as well. This is a typical substrate rate of reaction graph that's shown in here. But now, most of the time when you see graphs like that, you will see a description describing the graph. But this time they are asking you to explain this graph. Explain why substrate concentration affects the rate of reaction. So they want justification. Why increase in substrate concentration increases the rate of reaction. As you can see, as substrate concentration increases, rate of reaction also increases. Reasons behind it. This is from the marking scheme. So it says that as the substrate concentration increases, there are more substrate molecule. More substrate molecule means there is more collision, chance of collision with the active site of the enzyme. So more enzyme substrate complex formed. This increases the reaction. Do you see how it is developed? Describing the graph from the graph, giving a justification as to why it happens. And there's also another part of the graph, as you can see in here. It does not keep on increasing, but it levels off. When it becomes constant, these are words you need to use. Don't say constant. The graph levels off. That is the second point. Why does it level off? Why does it become that way? So, says that this second point. Graph levels off when all active sites are filled. Okay, and the enzyme becomes the limiting factor. So, that is the second mark that is present. Now, next one. This is from the examiner's report. So, this is one of the best answers that is written, talking about all of them. You can have a look at it. Talking about substrate concentration, about the collision, and about how it increases rate of reaction, and about why it levels off, making enzyme a limiting factor. So, this is a perfect answer given by a student that is included in the examiner's report. Very, very important question. Okay, you will see that explanation questions sometimes have an aesthetic written in there. And these are what 6 marks you have to do, you have to write a lot in here, and very, very important. These aesthetic questions, so I normally call them as star questions. These are level-based questions. Depending on the way how you answer, it will either be a level 1 answer, level 2 answer, or level 3. Level 3 answer is full marks, you get it. So, based on that, for example, this one over here. If we have a look at the 2 diagrams, it's about cross-section of a trachea of a person with and without cystic fibrosis. I'll use the term CF for cystic fibrosis. So, the question says, explain why cystic fibrosis causes differences shown in the diagram. So, meaning that you have to comment on the diagram and you have to link this to cystic fibrosis. I'll just write CF for cystic fibrosis. So, what are the things that you can, differences that you can see in the diagram? You can look at the lumen diameter. The next one is mucus that is produced. Next is inflamed muscle. Inflamed muscle. So, this is simply from the diagram. For a level 1 answer, for you to get 1 or 2 marks, you can just describe this as what is happening. For example, the lumen of the person with cystic fibrosis is narrower or it decreases compared with the person without it. There is more inflammation in the muscles present in the person with cystic fibrosis. So just describing from the diagram, level 1 answer will give you 2 marks. So how are you going to score that 6 marks? That 6 mark you are going to score by linking this with CF. Each one of that as why this leads to cystic fibrosis. That means the explanation part. Okay? What happens to it? It causes the lumen diameter to reduce, inflammation of the muscle, mucus production. It all starts with the mutated CFTR gene. So from there you have to give explanation. If you look at the masking scheme, wow, a lot of things are there, a lot of explanations given in there. So 6 mark questions you have to write a lot. Important thing is that when you are writing this, it has to be full sentences. You can write in point form, but keep in mind that it should be full sentences written. Okay, you just cannot say mucus is more here, mucus is less in here. Full sentence, link it to the person with CF is having this, person without CF is having that, and that is not it, but also give a reason why it happened. For example, I'll just give you an example, cystic fibrosis point. Okay? CF result in the production of very sticky mucus, okay, due to a mutation in the CFTR gene, resulting in normal protein not functioning and accumulation of chloride ions, water move out of mucus, and then the mucus becomes sticky. Like that, an explanation needs to be given. So this is how the levels are based on. If it's level 1, you get maximum 2 points. With explanation of any 3 points, 3 marks, okay, you get 3 to 4 points. With explanation, okay, 5 different points plus 1 link it to cystic fibrosis, you get full marks. So those are things you need to be very, you need to be careful when you are answering. So this is from the examiner's report. Okay, more than saying that if you just describe it, you get a level 1 mark. Okay, 1 or 2 mark. In order for you to get the full mark, you need to explain as to why this happens. Link it to CF, cystic fibrosis. So that is what a little bit of explanation of how you are going to revise yourself, plus some of the command words, very important, very important that you can do when you are doing an assessment. So thank you all for watching. See you in the discussion panel.